I don't think he's cooking it.
It's at the cafeteria.
No, these are new additionals. These are new, well, they're this morning. How about any press? Hi, how are you?
You know what he said?
I don't, but I'll give you one when I'm done.
That's the one.
Jimmy, how are you?
When I was coming back from 1,000 Islands, I said,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're telling me? You just had a meeting and she popped in your face.
She couldn't hit you very hard, if you know.
What you mean is she didn't hit it hard enough.
I didn't think she was a lefty, so I was trying to defend from the right, and she southpaw. I did.
This is in the village of Webster.
Lefties a lot.
How are you?
Well, you know what?
No, this is the town of Webster. This is not the village of Webster. Yeah,
So
that would be the
we
village.
got it all down.
Campbell. Oh, yeah, that is on. That's it. I got you. Okay. Switch gears on.
Barry Howard is in the house.
Hey. Got another berry coming too. Barry Dean's coming? Come on!
What is this?
Guess what? You and I are.
What is this? What's this?
Just with all this running around. Right out until it's going back, you want to table it. I think I still put the guys on. I don't.
We're gonna meet tomorrow now.
I don't think there's.
Good to see you. I don't think there should be any.
Well, I gave him that option and he decided not to cancel. There he is. Uh-huh.
Hi, Derek.
Hello. Well, it's 5:30. What do you say? Okay. All of us are here. The TV is on. Well, we are going to, well, this is the Thursday, August 25th, 5:30 p.m. Webster Town Board Workshop. We actually have 4 agenda items tonight. The first one is a resolution, and then the next 3 are 3 presentations. So I will get to the resolution that we're going to be going over tonight. The board, I think, is very familiar with this. But on the off chance they aren't, is there any questions that you have on this?
No,
Um,
I'm glad to see we're hopefully getting it done.
Yeah, this, well, as far as we can tell, it's an unprecedented situation.
Yes.
It's obligated the state said, you don't need us, kind of came full circle, so it's, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna make a motion to set a public hearing to split the Candlewood Park District into two districts, Candlewood and Bear Creek. Public hearing will be Thursday, September 15th at 7:30 p.m. in the town board meeting room at 1002 Ridge Road. And it will be advertised in the Webster Herald's Wednesday, August 31st edition. That is my motion.
Second.
Supervisor Perry?
Aye.
Councilwoman Catali?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wood?
Aye.
Okay, and I don't think anybody is here from Candlewood Park District that has any.
Oh, you was.
I am. I live in Candlewood Park, not Bear Creek, but Candlewood Park.
Yes. So
I'm just concerned if
I
Bear.
don't, you know what, oh jeez, I'm trying to think, well, I opened it up, because they can't hear you. And at home, they can't
She
see you.
can sit next to Paul.
If you wouldn't mind, if you do want to,
I'm,
because I don't want to shortchange you, if you're here from Candlewood, this has been such a
just question.
interesting ordeal, so to speak, shoot away.
Okay, Mary Jonas, 1120 Twin Lead Terrace, Webster, Candlewood Park subdivision, resident, original 20 years. Webster citizen, we're not mentioning 50 plus. Okay? My question was, if Bear Creek is allowed to split from Candlewood and get its own whatever association, does that make it easy for me as a resident in Candlewood to say, I don't need an HOA either. Why do I have to, or not an HOA,
Yeah.
a park land assessment? If they can split, why can't each individual owner of Candlewood have the same option to split?
Well, you know, isn't it great that Charlie Genesi, our town attorney, isn't here tonight? It's a great question. I don't think legally that's how it works.
Right.
These park districts are set up back when the development is put together.
It is, and I was in the original.
Your district has a very robust, active leadership. You don't have a homeowners association, but you have a group of people that want to maintain the acreage that is the park district, that is for the benefit of the residents. And they go around every year and put together a scope of work to maintain this acreage, and then cost, and then they go around and get a bunch of, you to sign, yes, we want this. And then they send it to Paul as our finance director, and if it's $10,000 and it's over 100 houses on average, you each get charged $100 on your tax bill for that park district. And the reason why we're splitting Bear Creek, those 10 residents out of this district, is there's a stream there that somewhat, they don't have any direct access to this park district. So they don't get the enjoyment of that unless they get in their car, go out on the state road and come around. So they lobbied the town to say, hey, look, the fair is fair. Get these 10 people in Bear Creek out of that district. Give them some land from the current park district that's on their side of the creek. Now, if the people in Bear Creek, those 10 people, decide they want to get together and go to Paul and say, we want you to do all this stuff on our side, well, then they'll have a charge. But I don't think that's their intent right now. Your side on Candlewood, I think that the group is still wanting to do annual maintenance. And if they come up with a scope and cost, it will be on your tax bill. Now, like I said, Charlie's not here tonight. I don't think there is a way to excommunicate yourself individually as a resident from the park district. But I don't know that for a fact.
And if it took 10 residences in Candlewood, because it was 10 residents in Bear Creek, we're getting a new generation of people in Candlewood. They're young 55s, and they're more
55 is young.
young. That's why I said they're young. You know, when we moved in, I was 55. You're an old senior citizen. And now I'm almost 80, and I'm just concerned that other people wouldn't say, hey, these young people,
Sure.
hey, we could get out of this Candlewood Park and take care of our own property.
Can I got an idea. I'm going to give you my business card. I will say this. We're going to go through the legal process
I'm
of
sure.
splitting
Yeah.
what is the same square acreage of Candlewood Park is going to just be split in two, and it makes sense. It's on the other side of the creek for the Bear Creek.
Yeah.
We're going to do that. Now, as far as you and potentially 2, 5, 10 neighbors, a question you have, could you ever basically excommunicate yourself from there? Let's talk offline and see if that's possible. I don't think it is,
But who
but I don't know
thought-
any other attorney in the room.
No, that was my only concern, that who would have thought Bear Creek would have requested to get off of our Candle? Understandably, they can't get over because we can't have a bridge and,
Right.
you know, and the swamp is right there. Understand all that, thank you. Understand all of that. But it was just a concern that it can't happen. Because these young, like I say, the young people moving in, young 55s, you know, they're more with it. And they would like maybe to bring in sheds and things, you know, and we have a beautiful, we've been through our park. It's gorgeous. And I just don't want to see, you know, somebody ripping out of Candlewood, ripping over here out of Candlewood, and then they don't take care of their lawns, you know, their common
Sure.
areas.
There's my card.
Yeah,
Let's talk offline,
that's
all
right.
right? Because
Thank
maybe there's more people like you in Candlewood that are interested. Can I basically get out of this? I don't think you can, but let's get.
And I'm not saying I want to get out of it.
I understand.
I'm looking at that big picture. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Addressing it.
Thanks for coming.
We'll see you at the next meeting.
You got it.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night. Barry,
I'm up.
you're up. So we have a presentation tonight by Barry Howard, who is, I always say the CEO of the Webster Chamber of Commerce. Is that an accurate title?
Yes, I am the president and CEO of the Webster Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. And this is a presentation about some of the Chamber of Commerce and other road signs leading into town.
So good afternoon, everybody. You've already been introduced to me. I think everybody here already knows who I am. So I want to just give you a little history and then just let you know what the Chamber is up to of late. There are 3 signs on the video or on the screen. You have one, which is the one on 104 westbound by County Line Road. I gave you a handout that's got the other 2, which are on Empire Boulevard as you come into town, eastbound at the Penfield border, and then Route 250, which is northbound as you come into town just before you get to the Good Shepherd Church. These 3 signs were bought, paid for, and installed and are currently maintained by the Chamber of Commerce and in the past by the 10 organizations that are listed on the sign. The American Legion, Kiwanis, the Knights of Columbus, the VFW, the Harmony House, the Eastern Star, the Lions, the Masons, the Museum, and the Rotary Club. For a long period of time, they originally funded the signs or assisted to fund the signs. The majority came from the Chamber and they put in a contribution, and subsequent to that, for a long while, they gave us some money, the Chamber, to maintain. We, as you can see from the pictures, we mow the grass, we make sure everything's trimmed, we make sure that the signs are looking good. But these signs are 20-plus years old. They were only designed to last for 20 years. We have the one on 104 in your package that's now been broken for the second time. It's kind of split. It got hit in a bad windstorm, or the plow hit it, or some, I mean, not the plow, but the plow snow hit it. And the one that's on the Empire Boulevard on the front of your sheet, you can see it's severely faded. So the time has come for us to replace these signs. So we're in the process right now of soliciting information and finding out exactly what it would cost to replace the signs. It's estimated that they'll probably be about $6,000 a piece if we were to build the exact same sign that we currently have, which would be about $18,000 for all 3 signs. And we don't have any indication yet from any of the groups. We're just reaching out to them now to see whether or not they're interested in funding, and if they are, they would be on the sign. If they aren't, they wouldn't be. And whether we even want to put the organizations on the sign is going to be dependent upon what they're able to contribute towards those signs. So the reason I'm here tonight is to let you know that we are in the process of looking to replace these signs. They are all on state property. They are all permitted to the Webster Chamber of Commerce by New York State, Route 250, Route 104, and Route 404 Empire Boulevard. We have the intention of doing something with them. And if nothing more, we will put up something that says Webster, welcome to Webster, Webster Chamber of Commerce, with our phone number and our website on it. But I'm just wanting the town to be informed that we are in the process of this, and asking if at this point in time there's any interest in participating at multiple levels. If there is a desire for you guys to have input as to what should be on the sign or what shouldn't be on the sign, we would like to hear from you about that. If you have an interest in assisting with the financing of the sign, we would like to hear about that as well. I know that this isn't anything that's been in the budget. It's not anything that's in our budget. And as you can see from the 104 sign, I wasn't planning on fixing it a second time this year, but when I got pictures of them this morning and saw how really bad they are, I wanted to kind of accelerate this process. I think that it's important for us to have something that is good looking, something that is appealing when people come into town. The only other sign that I know of that welcomes people to Webster, there are a couple of signs that welcome people to the village, but the only other one that I know of is on the back page of that packet that you have, and it's a welcome to Webster Town. It, I believe, is a town sign, and I don't know how long ago it was put up, but it does say established 18, or otherwise it's just got the logo on welcome to Webster. That one happens to be on Route 250, which is slightly south. It's a little bit closer to the Penfield line. Actually, if you look across the street, the sign that says welcome to Penfield is right across the street southbound. So I didn't know whether the town has any interest in participating in this project or not, but I'm just going to leave it there. The reason that Tom and I talked about it and said it would be a workshop item is, you know, you guys can discuss it, you guys can mull it over, you guys can give some input if you'd like. And if there is no interest on the part of the town, that's fine. We'll go ahead and proceed. We've done it in the past. We did it 20. So I think the sign company seems to think that they're about 24 or 25 years old. She wasn't quite sure when. The sign that's on Empire Boulevard that you see that's on that front page, that sign was actually replaced in 2007 when it got hit by a car. So we had to rebuild the entire sign. And at that point in time, the cost to replace that sign was close to $4,000. And we had to rebuild the whole thing. And you can see that because that's a west facing, that the sun has really faded that sign a lot. That's got the worst sun because there's no shade whatsoever. The others have at least a little bit of shade. So it's time for us to do that, and so I just wanted to come in, let you know what we were doing, let you know that we would like to have your input, and answer any questions that you might have.
I'm looking at the one on Empire Boulevard. I would just love to see those 2 signs being incorporated somehow, rather than having the Webster Warriors right next to the Webster Chamber of Commerce.
I don't remember, Barry Dean's in the room, he might remember, but that Webster Warriors sign got put up, I think, in 2001, so that sign's been up there for 20 years. Welcome to the Class A state football champions 2001, and then again in 2002, so those signs are, one, it's a little bit outdated as information, and 2, that sign's a little bit old as well.
And it was controversial at the time,
Oh,
Really? Put the sign up?
yes.
Hmm.
Because not everyone was included on that sign. We had many champions in town from both schools.
Ah, okay.
And
Yeah.
both male and female teams.
Good point. Multiple teams were
Multiple
also
teams.
state champions and they didn't get a sign. There you go. There you go. Always a controversy.
Yeah, we
And the same is going to be true for us when we start talking about the civic organizations. There's going to be some that are financially able to participate, there's going to be some that aren't. And obviously, we can't put people's names on if they aren't, but we're going out to them right now. Every one of these organizations is either in existence still or in some form of existence that morphed into from one thing to the next. I thought that there were a couple of them that were out of existence, but that's not the case. They are still alive. How well they are, I don't know. But as an example, the Harmony Society, the Barbershop Harmony Society, I think has morphed into the Genesee, the chorus of the Genesee. So we would, determine what that. But these have been up for 20 years. The time has come. They're not terribly fancy, but they do give an appealing welcome to the town. So
So take you have a minimum amount of money for an organization to donate to allow them to get on the sign.
say that again, John. I'm sorry.
So I'm assuming that you have a minimum amount of money that the organization would donate. give to
Yeah,
the
I would
chamber.
assume that,
Is that
if we made the assumption that the 3 signs were going to cost $20,000 to put in, we would probably maybe seek half of it from the organizations. There's 10 organizations, so if we got $1,000 from each of them, that would be $10,000, and then the chamber would pick up the other $10,000. And so, but I don't know that. I mean, it's entirely possible. Many of the organizations, they used to send us $50 a year towards the mowing. The chamber's been paying for the mowing for the last 10 or 12 or 15 years because the organizations haven't even been able to send us the $50 a year. The $50 a year went for making sure that the signs were trimmed and mowed. We also have another sign, as you know, the bushes on the town, on 104 coming into town. Those are also, that's also a chamber project that we did that's maintained by the chamber on an ongoing basis out of our budget. So whether the organizations will be able to participate, so I don't know, if each of them said they could give us $500, now we've got $5,000, or if there's other organizations that wanted to give us money. And again, I'm concerned about the issue that Barry brought up, is that if you go to these 10, what about this organization? What about that organization? Are they going to say, why am I not on the side? So I'm in a spot, but I'm just working my way through it to see what we want to do. And maybe the solution to that is to not put any civic organizations on the side. Maybe not. I don't know. But that's where we're at. I just wanted to make you aware of the fact that we're in that process. I mean, this is something that does involve the town. It is welcome to Webster. You guys do have a couple of things to do with Webster. Just a couple. So, any other questions for me?
Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I was kind of shocked when I found out, really. I was kind of hoping they were going to be a little bit less, because I don't have any money budgeted for this either. And coming out of the 2 years of pandemic, I'd have to do the squeeze, but doesn't mean that there isn't a benefactor out there that's going to say, I think this is important, and let me make a contribution towards it, and we'll put the signs up, or towards the, but I wanted you guys to be aware. But if you have comments, I want to hear comments about what should be on it, what shouldn't be on it, where they're located, if we want to go do something different. They seem to be the 3 prime locations, coming in on Empire Boulevard, coming north on 250, and coming east or west on 104.
How close is the one on when you're coming north on 250? How close is the one to Webster, the town side?
It's, if you can look, if you can see on that sign, that picture, Patty, you see that there's a sign up there for the new subdivision. That's just there, and then there's another whole hedge, probably twice the distance from that sign that says Webster, where life is worth living, to that big sign that's the for sale sign. That equal distance north would then be where the Webster, welcome to Webster Chamber sign is.
Got it.
So it's probably well into the town by the time, but that was the nesting spot that the state said, yeah, that's a good spot for us to put it.
Yeah.
It was actually where the town, where it gets close to that intersection, the state's right-of-way starts to widen out. So we're inside the state's right-of-way on all of our signs.
I drive by it constantly and I just
Yeah.
figure
A
out
little
the
bit.
positions.
All right, anything else for me? Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Letting us know.
Appreciate it.
Geez, our 550 presentation by ProArch on cybersecurity, are they out there? Oh, they are, okay. Oh, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, yeah, Didn't know they were here.
Good. All set? Hello, everybody.
Rich, we're gonna have you, this is interesting, because you're gonna come up here,
Okay.
and you're gonna sit at the microphones. Because we're on TV.
I'm gonna say here.
Yeah, and you know what we might do? We're adaptable. Why don't you guys get set up, and I'll have Pat, our highway superintendent, he'll come over to where you are, Paul, and I'm sure, Karen, if you can get the camera on him, we'll have, Pat do his, or, you know, really, hey, can you bring me a cup of coffee too while you're at it? You know what? We're having fun. Pat? Yes. Yes, because that, and I'm sorry, Rich, I was like, did you guys not come? And we should have had you.
Oh, no problem.
Pat, would you mind jumping up and doing your presentation first while ProArch is setting up for theirs?
Good.
If you don't mind.
Gonna need the.
You need the projector
I can be
too.
ready in 1 minute.
Yeah.
Well, then, I guess we'll adapt back to the original schedule. We came full circle.
I gotta warm up another sheet there, Pat. You have to warm up another sheet.
All right, and oh, Barry's gone. I was gonna say that while you guys are setting up, it will be interesting with the Chamber of Commerce because those 10 organizations, civic organizations that are on the turn signs that were put together 30 years ago. I think we all know those organizations are a very different structure today than they were 30 years ago, membership-wise and all that. So I would be interested to see how he makes out in going to these meetings.
Well, I just said to Councilman Abbott, wouldn't it be nice if on this lovely Webster sign, somehow chamber included on that, and only have one sign? If none of these,
That page.
that page, so if none of the service organizations really want to be involved in something like that anymore, and he just wants, and we just want something that talks about the chamber.
Put those in the 3 places. The three other arteries that come into Webster.
Just use the smallest.
Just a small,
Mine
there's
doesn't
room
matter.
underneath there for a chamber of commerce.
Classy looking little sign.
They are nice.
Okay.
But, you know, then we're taking out all the service organizations, but if they're not interested, maybe that's something we can pursue.
Good, right?
Other berries.
You'll find out as it happens.
Yeah. Awesome. So,
I think we're close to being in business.
all right. And, okay.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Rich Gleason, Strategic Account Executive for ProArch.
And I'm Brian Rowan, Security Team Lead at ProArch.
And we have 7 or 8 slides prepared for you. Some of them we're going to go through very quickly, but I can send this to Tom and he can share with anybody that is interested. So we plan to touch on, again, briefly, really the elevator speech of who ProArch is. Talk about some of the, so we're an IT services company, and we'll get to that. But some of the services that Tom and I have discussed for the town of Webster, a network assessment, what we refer to as a security posture check, and a backup posture check, and then hopefully some time for some Q&A afterwards. So the next few slides are, who is ProArch? So I'm going to be very quick here. We've been in business since 2006. We're about 350 people strong. We have local offices in Rochester and Syracuse, and we're based in the U.S. out of our Atlanta office. We do have offices in London and 2 in India. About 350 employees. Unique differentiator for us is we're one of Microsoft's strongest partners in the entire country. Brian, go to the next slide, please. A little bit about just some of the competencies that we have. So Microsoft measures your expertise on what are considered competencies. We have 13 gold competencies listed on the right and 2 silver. Nobody else in the area would be able to boast something like that. And this, I'm not going to go through these, but we have a very robust cybersecurity practice. We have our own security operations center that is in our India office, and that monitors all of the alerts that come in for our managed security customers. So you can see there, again, I won't go through them, but just a variety of different certifications. That top one, CISSP, is a very challenging certification to get, and we have several people who have that. So Tom and I had a conversation recently about using some funds to come in and assess the computer network, the infrastructure for the town of Webster. And what I listed on the right are just areas that we can measure. So we come in, we refer to them as SMEs, subject matter experts. So it would be a small team assembled that would come in and look at everything from your wireless, your security, your Microsoft Active Directory, your email systems, your firewalling, your switching, all of those things would go into it. And Tom and I talked through that, and it's a very robust service, and you can choose. You may say, well, you know what, we don't want to look into number 4 client services, so we can omit it. So you can pick and choose what you want to cover. But still, an assessment like that is probably going to be hundreds of hours, certainly tens of thousands of dollars. So we chatted a little bit about doing just number 6 at this time. Would you go to the next slide, Brian? Brian's going to talk a little bit about what a security posture check is. Security posture check, I'll just kick it off, and he's going to describe a few other services before we speak about that specifically, is a very high value offering. So for the town of Webster, we would commit, probably it would take in the range of 80 hours of time, and it'd be somebody on Brian's team, perhaps even Brian, that would deliver this service. We come in here, it's a 1-day assessment, we install certain tools, we gather a lot of information, we go behind the scenes, we digest it, and then we come back with a very robust report that tells about the security state of affairs for the town of Webster, where your vulnerabilities lie, and then we essentially on a 1-to-5 scale rank them where we feel you should address them first, assuming you can't do everything all at once. Brian, could you just high-level walk through these assessment tools?
Sure. Starting with the security posture check, and we're going to go into a little more detail on the following slide on that. But as Rich said, it's a high-level review of the security of your organization. We're going to have a discussion about, your security policies and procedures that are in place. So there is a discussion per point of that as well. Then we run a few tools in your environment, security tools to assess like the quality of your Active Directory domain, your password hygiene. And then we also do a vulnerability assessment to identify, systems that are behind on patching, vulnerabilities in software and network equipment, things that can be out of date that are found on your network. Some other assessment and consulting offerings that we have are the backup and recovery posture check. So the security posture check is really more focused on a high-level review of the entire security of your environment. The backup and recovery posture check is logically just targeting your backups, right? What is your backup process? What is your backup procedure? Do you have on-site backups, off-site backups? Are you following the 3-2-1 strategy, 3 copies of your data, 2 disparate locations of one off-site or offline? So that backup and recovery posture check would cover that specific area. The Microsoft Office 365 security review, if you're in Office or Office 365 online, it goes over a lot of best practices to better secure your environment. Do you have multi-factor authentication enabled? Do you have best practices enabled from Microsoft for all the different configuration options you have in the environment? Next up here, penetration testing. That's a little more advanced. That's usually one that we do for an organization that already has their vulnerabilities under control, that has a vulnerability assessment program in place. That's where we actually have a consultant come in and see what they can get into, see what they could, break into in your environment from the vulnerabilities that are discovered. And then security awareness training. People are really the front line for your organization, always. So training them to be on the lookout for suspicious emails, suspicious phishing, voice phishing, any other types of social engineering attacks that your organization may face. And then just really high-level security consulting, security assessments, and then even VCSO if that's needed. So a little more information on the security posture check. It really covers those 9 main categories up there. So, we're going to talk about your asset inventory, how you manage that, your life cycle management, your processes there. Malware protection, do you have antivirus or an EDR solution, endpoint detection and response solution on all of your systems? Is it working like you think it is? Next up, patching cadence. Are you applying your Microsoft Windows patches every 30 days? Or, how far behind are systems if they are behind in your environment? Privileged account review is going to be looking at your privileged accounts in the environment. Your domain administrators, your high-level administrative accounts, making sure that you're following best practices, you don't have too many, and that you don't have local administrative access configured on all workstations. Email hygiene is really a really high-level version of the Office 365 security review. Password hygiene is your account passwords in your environment. Vulnerability management is where we'll do vulnerability scans on your network to identify everything on your network that could potentially be outdated and insecure. Ransomware protection is using a third-party tool where we run it on a designated workstation, and it mimics what some different common ransomware in the world would do, and lets us know how your antivirus or endpoint detection and response program handles it. And then lastly, we cover security awareness training to discuss how often are you doing it, and make sure that you're performing that up to best practices.
Let me comment on the backup posture check. So it really ties in well with a security posture check, and oftentimes organizations will combine the two. So backups, the way backups need to be configured today is different than it was just a few years ago. And if backups aren't segmented properly from the rest of your network, if you have a ransomware attack and that attack can get to the backups, then you are forced to negotiate with the bad actors because they've encrypted your backup, and you have no other choice. You can't rebuild your network because everything is encrypted at that point. Is there anything you want to add on that?
No, I apologize. I think I talked about most of this stuff.
Yeah.
When we were reviewing it last time, I didn't realize you had all the details.
It does get into disaster recovery preparedness as well. So you'll see some things, line 3 there, RPO, RTO, recovery point, recovery time. So recovery point means how long do your backups go back? Do you go back a week? Do you go back 6 months? What is it? And it's probably different for different systems depending on their value. In RTO, if you have some sort of crisis, whether it be a security crisis or a server crash, or we've seen all sorts of environmental things, and you need to restore from backup, how quickly can you do it? If you say, I need that system up in 2 hours, are you prepared to do that? Or is it 2 days? And so we ask those probing questions to find out if your current backups meet those. And that is really it for our presentation. So I wanted to see if you have any questions at this point.
Yeah, what's the cost?
It's a great question. So the cost of a security posture check for an organization of this size is $10,000. And what Tom and I did discuss is if any other towns might be interested in a similar offering, that we would reduce it perhaps to as much as $8,000. And this offering, a security posture check or a backup posture check, they're really what we would refer to as loss leaders. Somebody from Brian's team is going to spend 80 hours of time, and we're going to bill you $8,000 or $10,000 for this. These are, generally we bill, upwards of $200 an hour for personnel like this. So it is a very high value offering, again, in hopes of endearing ourselves to an organization and see where we can help you out after that.
So the other question I have is, I know that you said you we met with Tom, and, you know, in that this is an IT issue, my question is, was our director of IT part of that meeting?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
Um,
Yeah, he really needs to be, so
Yeah,
No, I said, was he?
Was he, past tense.
I apologize. He was not a part of that conversation. It was more of an informal setting.
He is here this evening listening to us, because people felt of it.
Yeah, and I will say this, and I'm glad that, you know, one of the things that we discussed is at next month's Monroe County Supervisors Association lunch meeting, I'm gonna bounce off the like-kind towns of ours that, Rich, you know some of those supervisors, that there might be a potential for some shared service benefits, the way the state incentivizes that, to have them do this along with us, and that kind of gets into that discount that you described. You know, truth be told, I mean, this is something that, ever since I've become supervisor, I've said, I went through this process at my company back in 2014, 15, and I found it to be a very valuable resource to get a third party to take a look at our IT system. Our IT manager at my company had reservations about it and had concerns about it. It's natural. It's interesting, as we moved forward, that same person became very tight with your staff. So, as far as I'm concerned, I know this is something that Steve Peace is here tonight. The folder that I have in my office that's an inch thick that was from my company's 4-year history with actually Rich's company, which was IV4, of which you no
Yeah.
longer own that.
Right, IV4, I was president and one of the owners of a company in town, Rochester and Syracuse, called IV4, and we were acquired 3 years ago by Grower.
Yeah. So this is something that I've been talking about. I've shown the folder. I've actually referenced the folder because I learned a lot through that experience. And that's why we're here today talking about kind of the blocking and tackling aspect of this. And the next step is I'm going to go to the supervisors to see if we can make this an even better financial option. So,
And just to add a note with the inclusion of the IT staff, so if you're like most organizations, you're probably not fully staffed. So the staff is oftentimes very, and I'm speaking in generalities here, of course, oftentimes more tactical, keeping the lights on day to day, and they may not have the security training of people who are certified and have dedicated their career to it. So it's very beneficial for organizations to have an outside look to see what vulnerabilities exist.
any other comments?
All right, thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, Pat, you are up.
It's all set.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Very quiet. So I'm back this afternoon to go through another presentation on the Town of Webster Highway facility. I was most recently here to go through the existing building and facility, and tonight's presentation will be on the facility that we feel is needed. There's still a little bit of flux going on. We're working through the feasibility and concept plan that we've had, because there's been a couple of alterations, but I'm very, very confident now with the current configuration of the building we have is going to be very efficient, and I just want to outline what's needed here so you guys start to get an idea of what type of building, what it looks like, how it functions. So, as I typically do, I'll kind of describe some of the photos. This is actually a rendering of a different highway facility. This is not our exact building. We're not that far along in the design stage to have a rendering of our specific building, but this is one that's incredibly similar, that is actually going to be, I believe, going to construction fairly soon. It's actually out closer to Buffalo in the greater Rochester area, but it's a very similar size building and style, which is the open span steel structure with a single entry and single exit and administrative offices located within a portion of that. So that's what that image there is. The next here is actually our concept site plan that we have. So this slide on the right-hand side, I know it's a little small, between the handouts it's a little bit better, and we will be coming back with some additional plans on this, but this outlines our campus. So a lot of the features that are into this layout, this configuration, which is the building location, there's a truck traffic flow aspect with access to fuel, materials, maintenance, and parking in an efficient manner, which essentially means, especially as we get into winter operations, it's incredibly important that as the flow of our 18 to 24 trucks come in and out of the facility, that they're able to, in a linear fashion, access those type of things: fuel, material, parking, maintenance, all that type of stuff. If you get out of order, but there's a lot of strange jockeying around, you can picture 18 trucks, if you've been on the roads lately and there's traffic, trying to all maneuver and cross each other and whatnot. So that's really a critical part of the campus overall, for that to be efficient. This one, we feel this current layout maximizes the useful space between the two properties. So to the top of the screen, to the north, you'll see the 8 acres that was recently acquired in addition to the existing facility, which is all below sort of the midline there. I guess I can point to this a little bit. This is the original driveway. The existing main facility is actually right here, as you see with the cursor. So this piece of property over here is the newly acquired piece. It shows how that will be utilized along with existing facilities, this being the Cliff Jones building, one of the newer buildings that was created and is still in much better condition than the main building at this location. So it maximizes that, minimal impacts to existing facilities. So kind of start laying some of these out. So that's the new highway facility down there at the bottom of the screen. That's the building with the trucks, the new building that is going to house everything the main building does now. That's where that's located, which is all the way to the southern portion of the property, currently where we store leaves and other materials. Having that there will allow the existing facility to stay open. And that's kind of a major factor in maintaining service, as well as eliminating the cost for temporary relocation. It's a very, very big factor in this that not every campus can achieve. We weren't sure if we could achieve it here, but this layout does achieve it, which is why it's the one we believe is the best and are hoping to move forward with. And it also maximizes the future use of existing buildings, primarily the Cliff Jones building. So just going along with a little more pointing to what you're looking at on the right-hand side. We have the new highway facility all the way to the south. Next is the existing Cliff Jones building. That building, as I said, is still in very good condition and will continue to be utilized. It's about a 25,000 square foot space, so it'll be a very good addition to not have to rebuild that space new. There's a lot of efficiencies there that are going to make this project have a lot more bang for the buck than some other ones. Next, you have the salt barn. The salt barn is in need of replacement, so it's currently in our feasibility plan to put a new barn where the existing one is over a summer. The construction of that facility would facilitate a one-year turnaround where we wouldn't be without one for winter if we started it in the spring. Currently, that is still part of this study. Further to the north, I guess northwest there, is our plan for the public mulch access, or really public access for anything outside. There'll be a paved area there that is outside our perimeter security fence that can be accessed by the public. And the primary use for that with the operations that we have would be the spring mulch pickup. Have a location that's close to us, it'll reduce the hauling, it'll reduce impacts to our residents in other areas that we've done it, things of that nature. So that'll be that portion, and then material storage. Given the new 8-acre parcel is located adjacent to a residential housing complex, there is going to be a large vegetated buffer between the two properties, between 80 and 100 feet, depending on where you are. But we still didn't want to, there's a space constraint to putting a building over there, but also having the least amount of equipment as possible, least amount of noise, least amount of impact to our neighbors was the reason that this area will be used mostly for material storage, pipe, stone, things of that nature. Essentially a storage area, not a high traffic area. So those are the key components to the site layout. A couple of little things while we're on here. The fuel island stays where it is. Right now there is no plan to replace that. It's got some years on it, but it is functioning properly, so that would remain as it is now for access by all the town departments. And then, as opposed to coming straight into the building now, there would be a corridor down the western side of the property to get to the public access of this building now. So you would travel this way down through here to get to it. It would be separated from the truck traffic by a barrier along this area. So public access in the front, our operations in the back, separated to make sure traffic is safe as we go through our daily operations. And I'm ahead of myself, but yeah, fuel island to remain. Here is the schematic or concept layout footprint for the new building. This structure, as I said, is a single span steel frame building, single entry, single exit. So what that means is there's a flow of traffic in with directional angle parking all in one direction, and then a flow of traffic out. 2 doors. Currently in our main building, there are 14, I believe, doors. So when we send 14 trucks out, 14 doors open, and there is no hot air left in that building. It has to completely reheat, regenerate. Not to mention each truck backs in and out of its own stall, between its own doorway, a slew of things that can happen as all that backing in tight spaces is. This layout eliminates it. It allows all the vehicles to be in one organized space and should make the operation of them safer and more efficient. So that's the big advantage of the style building. This configuration is for 30 trucks. Right now we currently have 18 mainline trucks and between 4 and 6 spares, so right around 24 trucks. With the recent build-out calculations that we completed over the summer about the build-out of the town, we anticipate that to be a total with spare trucks to be more like 26 to 28 trucks. But plowing equipment, we put plow equipment on 3 loaders, 2 backhoes, and at times a grader. So really in the winter time, there are other pieces of equipment that really should be maintained in a heated space. This allows some space for those large pieces of equipment that we do pile push-ups in the circle with or use in heavy storms to also be within a main heated facility with access to the maintenance bay without having to sit outside and endure the conditions in those situations. So that's the reason for the sizing. This also shows 6 main mechanic bays up in the front here. A few of these areas I'm going to dissect a little bit further. Up in the front part of the mechanics shop is going to be one of them. So 6-bay mechanic shop, locker and break rooms for 55 to 60 staff, and additional meeting spaces in the admin portion of the front of the building. So that is the Layout, as I said, we're going to break down and go into a couple of these areas in a little bit more detail. One is the maintenance bays. Another is the staff facilities, which is break room, locker room, rest rooms. Basically the space that they use 90% of the time, that, as we went over in the existing conditions, is severely undersized at the moment. So we'll go over what the proposal is for those. And then the admin offices at the front, which are currently in the main building also. Those will be the breakdown. So the maintenance bays. Currently we have 20 large dump trucks and over a dozen pieces of heavy equipment. 6 bays are needed to maintain the fleet in a safe, efficient manner. The area has a single open format parts storage room. On one side, currently the parts are stored in probably closer to 3 rooms, kind of all over the place. That's as a part of the addition and the expansion of the facilities. Different rooms in the buildings turn into for different uses, and one of them is parts. And we currently have them in a lot of different places, which, as you can imagine, is a little inefficient, difficult to navigate. I know I'm still learning where everything is, that's for sure, because it's quite a complex process. The guys that have been there 20 years have it down, but it's definitely not as efficient as it could be. The separate mechanics offices are located up near the critical office staff. They do have a lot of interaction between billing, ordering, going through our procurement policy with the admin staff located over here. So they're able to be in close proximity to the work that's going on, being in this location, as well as being able to go down the hall and connect with our admin staff. That's critical to them maintaining a efficient operation. And then probably the biggest part with the 6 bays versus the 2 or 3 that we have now is the space to have static projects continue without losing the ability for additional efforts. So what we find now is if we have a truck that needs a truck or a piece of equipment that needs a major work effort that takes, say, 2 or 3 weeks, and we have 4 breakdowns, that piece that's sitting and isn't mobile, we can't move it. You can't get around it, you can't move it, you have no space to have it there. So you start shoehorning different things in, or we're working under trucks outside and just in places that isn't efficient and safe. Having this amount of space would allow our bigger, longer-term projects to have a space of their own and still have multi-stall maneuverability for any breakdowns that occur during it, which is obviously, like most of the stuff we do, most critical during snow removal, that if stuff starts to go down, it needs to be fixed quickly. And if you already have something in there with a major overhaul that was unexpected, not putting one of those trucks in there to work on it, especially in the winter, really isn't feasible. It's not an option. So having that space is critical. The next section is the staff facilities. We touched a lot on this during the existing conditions. The new facility has men's and women's locker rooms separate, multiple sinks, toilets, and urinals. You saw the pictures of what we have now. Certainly not nearly enough in there, especially as shift work continues and a large number of staff are coming in and going back out all at once. Staff entrance that we have on this flows into the staff facilities. So there's a dedicated staff entrance to the south of the building that flows in past the dispatch office where any winter operations would be organized out of, past some other offices, and then directly into where they would store their gear or go to the bathroom. They can either go back out or into the shop in this direction, and then that goes right over to the break room, cafeteria, I even call it a training room. And the big thing with that area is that it's sized to staff, just seat all the staff in one place, which we currently struggle with when our numbers are full. We don't really have a place that we could sit as one big group and have a linear conversation. You're either looking around the corner or up, down, in through here. It makes it a little bit difficult to have meetings or address the staff completely without sort of walking around the room, which as we continue to train and have newer people come in, there's more and more need for training and presentations and all that type of activity. The third area we'll get a little more specific on is the administrative offices. This is more of a replacement. We're not adding any spaces in here except for some potential overflow space for future things that might pop up we're not aware of, addition of staff or utilization by other town staff, but very little extra because we're trying to be as efficient as possible with the design. So the conference room here is sized for 15 to 20 people. This layout has a secure entrance and waiting area. Right now, when you enter the facility, you're immediately in the facility. You have access to all parts of it, whether it's our admin staff, my office, the foreman's office, the break room, and the mechanics bay. We need, in this day and age, a little bit more security than that. So this would provide that with a sort of lobby area, and also gives our residents a comfortable place to wait if they do have to wait for us to finish something up to address their concerns or needs. Within the other offices, office manager, office clerk, foreman's office, the spaces are a little bit larger so that they have more room for documentation and the work efforts that they do. The layout proposed here is strategic for daily communication and coordination. We need to operate as a team down there in order to be successful, so having close proximity to one another so that we continue to do that in a very organic way is critical and really important to me as we go through our daily work. So that's the main rundown of the proposed facilities. I always like to try to put a little next steps section in here. The next steps for the building itself are to seek design proposal, so a design proposal solicitation, construction management solicitation, those kind of go hand in hand as we start to formulate some of the other details about this building and getting it going. We're also reviewing performance contracting and its applicability to the project. We've had a kickoff meeting on that just to discuss that as a group here at the town. And then the next sort of logistical process would be begin the secret designation process for the building with the board here in the town. So those are the steps we've got coming up. This is a picture of our newest truck jammed into one of those bays that I keep describing, but I have to back out that little door. Well, it's not little, but compared to the truck, it sure feels that way when I watch them back out. And then, is there any questions or comments on the building?
I'm glad we're moving forward on this. It's most definitely a needed project for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, my comment is that I was highway liaison until the first of this year, so I was actually able to tour some other facilities with you and some of your staff. It's exciting to see this actually coming around, and I like the way we've used the space. It's a big concern of what if we have to move out of where we are, because that was going to certainly increase the cost tremendously. So it's nice to see that we're able to keep the existing building and still give a new house. And some people who had looked at this earlier really were paying attention. I'm not too sure how many out there were. There was always some discussion about, well, if we get this 8 acres, maybe we'll just put the new building there. And certainly you've done your due diligence to find that that really isn't feasible. So I think, it's, from what I see, it's a great use of the overall acreage on the site. The other thing I want to add is that early on in this, at least when I was first involved and we were doing our explorations, that you did get together with your foreman and your staff to say, all right, if we have a new facility, what's important to you? What do you really need? So they've had a good amount of input in this plan as well.
Absolutely. I mean, they're the most critical. They know and feel this far more strongly than I do. I only have a very short period of time dealing with some of these challenges. They have a much longer period. They've I think literally in a lot of cases put blood, sweat, and tears into the existing building to make it continue as long as it has for the taxpayers, for the town, and they're very, very concerned, interested, which is why it was important to all of us to make sure they were included throughout, and they still are very closely. And as we move to the next stages, certainly that way, because it is most critical to the people that use it, critical to the rest of the town in the way of the services. And I think the element of staying in our current facility, which keeps us 100% operational, is also critical to the services. I think that's one of my greatest concerns as a manager, is if This was to get prolonged, we did have some kind of failure in the existing building, how it would alter our ability to perform our essential services as much as dollars. I think those concerns would be equal to me. It would be an even bigger challenge to make sure the roads are clear, so that emergency vehicles can travel on in the winter and all that type of stuff, if we had some kind of failure with the existing building.
Pat, I tried to kind of add up all the layout, I think on page 3, and I came up with rough math about 77,000 square feet.
A hair more, I'd say approximately 8.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. And that is down from the original concept plans, so.
Yeah, so we talked about how we did a study on the population and the building came down.
Yeah.
So because of that, we are currently reworking the feasibility study to reflect the building that we feel we need. So we're here explaining the building. The reason there isn't all the other detail with it is that feasibility study is being reworked to encompass the resizing that was driven by the recent activity. You see, I believe the site building plan on this is August 9th. That's when we got the revised footprint, which is dramatically smaller. Now we're going through a process to incorporate that resizing. Best described the process we went through, which was multiple different layouts on the site so that we can really describe what was put into the feasibility study. And then there's a phasing effort going on by all of us right now to really boil this down to exactly what we need now. We know the critical items on this that are going to be coming, and we want to really make sure that there is nothing in this initial proposal that would be considered extra, considered something that was above and beyond what was needed now without being short-sighted as far as the efficiency of a single building.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, I think the two measure twice, cut once milestone events that have happened in the last several months, at least for me. One, I think there was the feeling, we got the 8 acres across the street, that's where the facility's gonna go. That kind of manifested itself early in the concept plan. It doesn't work. It's fine, those 8 acres we'll need.
Could be done that, yep.
That I can't minimize that study about, really realistically how big population-wise is this town gonna get. Because that changed things. And that's your measure twice, cut once. I mean, if this is a once in a 50-year thing, we need to do it right. And I like the way we're going about it. I know that Patty had said you were the liaison to highways, so you got a chance to tour places. This
Bill
year,
has it now.
thank you. And I
It's in
mean,
good hands.
between Bill's engineering background and Pat, you kind of a combination of engineering and, construction, whatever. We got good people really researching this. And I know you got some milestone events coming up in the next few days as we continue the process.
Yeah, the solicitation process for some of the design and coming up with the exact steps moving forward to get things solidified in a way where everybody's confident. It's great having Bill on that team. Definitely picked right up where Patty left off and has a lot of knowledge in exactly what we're doing right now. So I agree, when we have those meetings, they're very productive. I think it's really going to maximize the efficiency we can get out of this and get us a great product.
Emeritus, you gotta come up to the microphone, Barry. We need to see your face.
You can hear
it.
One benefit of that type of construction, besides the energy savings of only having 2 doors, you're going from 14 doors to 2 doors. What's your budget to maintain those doors each year now, about $25,000?
Yep.
That's what it costs to maintain the 14 doors, and that will be virtually
There's
eliminated.
no way we can get you up at the microphone, Barry?
No, I'm good.
Sure.
I'm positive.
All right.
The only other comment I have is that your location of your leaf pile.
Yeah.
You're moving it close to a neighborhood.
Nope, so that's only going to be for pickup. That is not going to be the year-round composting location.
Okay, all right.
That is going to be the public pickup location. The permanent location for the actual composting process is gonna be all the way to the east,
Okay.
southeast corner by the larger cell tower, so it's actually going up against a 70-acre vacant piece of property.
So that's
year
good to hear
round.
because now you'll be avoiding some of the odor issues.
Yes, yeah, hopefully the odor heads into the woods there and not into the residential areas. In the springtime for pickup, there'll be a little bit of impact out there, but it will not be year-round. That's very intentional for that exact reason.
Perrington's had a design of this for a long time, and it's very efficient. It's much more, ours is really archaic.
I can't hear you.
I told you.
Well, I'm done.
Even with that booming voice, Mary.
Where'd the things go?
Well, for those watching at home who can't see him, the man behind the curtain, Barry Dean, 50 years, highway in town, is in the house tonight. Too bad they couldn't hear what you were saying, because, you know, you had great questions and great comments. Hopefully it'll be in the minutes now. Well, anything else? Is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.
Pat, thanks.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank
I
you.
get the feeling we're going to be seeing you a lot more in the next couple of months at these.
Correct. And we'll continue to be here talking about this, so appreciate you guys all listening.
Thanks, Pat. All right, that's that. I think we're done. 6:37.
Without spraying it all over.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, what?
See you, very good. I'm with you, just to see you. Bye-bye.
Very good to see you.
See ya.
Come fix that fence.
Pretty good, pretty good.
You feel like, I want to see the material. There's better material.
They have nylon.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, it's just synthetic. These are cotton.
He just understood the question, but his emphatic when he says, he's not, he's not.
That was the only reason to get up here
He's sitting down.